I'm going to be replacing the thermostat on a Bobcat 463 or S70. Keep watching the video. Welcome back, it's Jeff Lepard from DoItAllSealing.com, and on this channel we do concrete repair, driveway sealing, general contracting, and so much more. So if you're new here, consider subscribing. So right now my Bobcat 463 is overheating and the cab heater is not working. So investigating what's going on inside, I found that the hose at the bottom doesn't have any antifreeze and it's actually cold compared to the hose at the top. So the antifreeze is not circulating, therefore telling me that the thermostat has gone faulty and needs replacing. So I'm just going to open up the back cover here and I'll show you what's going on. And we do have a brand new rad installed, so the thermostat is actually just located right in this housing here. So this hose here does get hot. Unfortunately, the bottom hose that's going in through the bottom of the engine is completely empty, and it's actually just filled with air, which means that since the rad change, the thermostat is no good and it definitely needs replacing. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I need to drain the coolant, the antifreeze coolant, out of the radiator, and by doing that I'm just going to be taking this clip off and I'm just going to take this hose off and drain it into a bucket. So I just have a pair of channel locks just so that I can get around the hose clamp, and I'm going to just move that clamp up off of the thermostat housing just like so. Just going to move it out of the way and clamp it back on the hose, and therefore this will be ready to come off and drain it in the bucket. Now this fluid needs changing, just judging by the color of that anyways. And you can always help it drain a little faster by taking the cap off the radiator. Now with the antifreeze coolant drained, now I'm ready to remove the housing on the thermostat. And there's two 12mm bolts that I'll be removing to gain access to the thermostat and gasket so I can remove that. So I've got my ratchet here and I'm just going to go ahead and start loosening that. Okay. And now the housing is going to come right off. Okay, so there's the housing piece, and there's the old thermostat and gasket. So this wasn't opening to allow the fluid inside of the engine. What normally happens is it heats up and this will open up, allowing the coolant to flow into the engine. So now with the housing and old thermostat and gasket removed, I just cleaned off the top of the housing here, on top of the engine here, and here I have a brand new gasket from Bobcat, and here is the thermostat. So if you're using a 463, these are the parts that you will be using here from Bobcat. If your machine is an S70, then you may have a different part number, because they actually are using their own engines in the S70s with a Bobcat engine, and this is the Kubota engine. Okay, so I'm just going to take the thermostat and put that in, followed by the gasket, and just line that up with the the holes, and now we're ready to put the housing back on. Okay, so I'm just going to place the housing back over. I just want to get the screws, the bolts through the holes just to make sure that they're going to be catching the thread, and I'll tighten them after. So there's one. Okay, you might just have to adjust it a little bit. Okay. And there is two. Okay, now I'm going to tighten it down again. So I've got my 12mm ratchet again. I've hand tightened it, so now I'm just going to make this snug. Don't over crank it. You don't want to strip the bolt. Just hand tight is fine. And do that for both bolts. And then next we will reattach the hose that I took off. Okay, so I'm ready to attach the coolant hose, and I'm just gonna put that snug down and use my channel locks again, and I will put that back into place, into the proper position around the housing. Okay, just like that. With the thermostat and gasket installed and the hose back in place, now you have to refill the coolant antifreeze into the system. And of course, I'm using the Bobcat's coolant. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up the first jug, and I'm gonna start filling it into the rad. And then once I do that, then I'm gonna be checking the system, starting it up, allowing the engine to heat up. And as soon as that heats up, the thermostat should open up and it should be circulating throughout the engine, and I should have heat into the cab. So here we go. Okay. Now I'm ready to start the engine. The engine heats up, and I'm going to keep an eye on the coolant, and I'm going to continue filling the coolant. It's called burping the system. If there's air in the hoses and throughout the engine, it's going to burp the air out, and you're going to continue replacing the air with coolant if that happens. So I've completed filling the Bobcats with the coolant. I'm just going to replace the cap on the radiator now. Okay, so the cab heater is working, and the top and bottom hoses are warm, and that tells me that the coolant is circulating throughout the engine, which means the thermostat was successfully changed and everything is working great. So that's it. I just want to thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, bash that bell to turn notifications on for all upcoming videos, share the video, like the video, leave a comment down below, and we'll see you next time on the next video. Jeff Lepard, Do It All Sealing. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.